All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Mr. Patriarch talking to various guests. Apologies for the delay. I had the the misfortune of ordering some takeaway food, and then I figured it'd be good. I was like, yeah, I'm like 25 minutes, 30 minutes out. It'll be fine. No, we had to wait when we got there, but so, anyways, that explains the delay. Tonight, I am joined by. So, I guess if you want to sort of find out where I sort of got my start in YouTube, you could go check out this Joker's channel. And if you scroll back through the archives long enough, you'll see a certain D Dog or Mr. Patriarch in the stream. So. But tonight we're joined by my buddy Scott. So how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm well, D-Dog. How are you, man? Yeah, it's interesting because this is like this is basically flashbacks to the good old days. It was only like what, maybe 2 years ago when we first did our first stream or something.
Yeah.
Maybe less, but yeah, it's good to be here. I'm looking forward to this chat.
Awesome. Yeah. So tonight, guys, we're just going to be sort of talking about. We got kind of a bit of a loose itinerary we're going to be discussing about. We're going to be talking about what's the best thing about being a dad. So big picture, get more specific. How it's sort of changed your life, the role of a father. How is raising a kid different today compared to back in the day? What are the biggest dangers of raising a kid? How do you prepare your kid for the future while shielding them from all the degeneracy, and also sort of what particular challenges present a parent in South Africa. So Scott, of course, is South African, born and raised, and his dad's from Rhodesia. Your mom's South African, though, right?
Well, both of my parents were born in South Africa, but they grew up in Rhodesia.
Right. So they wanted to be around more Anglos.
Yeah, they were looking for that. They were looking for that classic Anglo agrarian sweet spot, and they found it for a number of years in the Shire. They found it for a number of years in Rhodesia.
Awesome. So I guess if any of you guys, we're going to get going, and if you have any questions, super chat should be online, so those will take priority. So we'll stop. If you guys have any pressing questions, we'll answer those first. So if you got any super chats, you could send them away, and we'll take a break, answer them if we have any midway. And then again, if there's any stragglers at the end, we'll sort of try to answer those. So I guess
I'm just waiting here on the sideline when you pull a Ronaldo host and say 20% of my super chats are going to sponsoring Scott's super-based bras, but I guess it's not going to
happen. No, man. With my precarious financial position, I need all the help I can get. So no,
I got you, brother. I got you.
All right. So I guess let's start off. Number one, what's the best thing about being a dad, Scott? Because you and I, we both became dads like within a week of each other. So
yeah, we planned it that way.
Pretty funny how that all happened. But yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, look, yeah, it's true. Myself and Dylan, we my daughter, I think, was born probably about 5 days or so after Nikki, and I made a video a while ago, probably a year ago, probably when my daughter was quite small, about about fatherhood and some of the things that were 50% of the super chat goes to based thing, yeah. Classic Christoph.
Nice.
So I think what I've noticed, and it's something that has slowly sort of, as my daughter gets older, something that slowly sort of started to dawn on me is the fact that whatever I'm creating in my daughter through spiritual mentorship, through discipline, through guidance of a father and that sort of thing will live on long after me. And that is for me the thing that's so profoundly special behind being a father. You know, there's all those great moments, you know, when your child comes up to you and gives you a hug, which is, those are all fantastic, you know, but they're not really the best part of being a dad. For me, the best part is the realization that the work I'm doing as a father will live on in my daughter long after I'm gone. You understand? And that for me, it's almost like that. It's almost like a earthly immortality through my daughter, and my legacy will live on through the spiritual guidance and discipline and all of those great things that a father teaches their children. You both like the Ayatollah.
Only if you mean the Ayatollah of rock and ruler from Mad Max.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that for me is, if I were to choose a single greatest thing, I would say that that is. But I mean, obviously, there's a ton of amazing things to being a father. You know, and not only that, but to having a family as a family unit, and being the patriarch of that family is something that is profound, and it's a great stress. It's a great concern, obviously, a constant concern for a father, but it's also a great honor, and it's also a great glory to God, and that is, some of the things that I love about being a dad.
I think that's exactly right. It's the legacy thing. I was talking with a friend of mine back home, and we're talking about having kids. And I was asking him, "Hey, man, so when are you planning on having kids?" Because I know he's been in a serious relationship for a long time with this girl and whatnot, and kind of thinking about getting married. And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we'll do that or whatever." And I'm just like, it's weird to me, because it's like, it's almost foreign to sort of the way I think a little bit, because I'm like, why wouldn't you have kids? And if I think about my peer group back home, these are guys who are, between, their late 20s and early 30s. And out of all of them, I'm the only one who has kids or has had a kid. All the rest of them, there was one friend of mine who's a bit older than me. He's about 5 years older, and he had a kid, but he wasn't like part of like my core group. He was like sort of a friend I had kind of on the side. But literally everybody else, none of none of them have reproduced. And I talked to them about it a little bit, and it's like it's like they're kind of weighing the pros and cons. And Oswald Spengler, the guy who wrote Decline of the West, his point, one of the things that he said in there is like, once a civilization reaches the point where it's sort of like weighing whether or not to have kids, it's already like on the way out the door. And I thought about it, yeah, it kind of is. Because it's all about, I have a comfortable life. I like what I'm doing right now. And having a kid will mess that up. And it will, if all you want in life is to, eat Cheetos and play video games and get back from work and have hours and hours of leisure time. Yeah. It will mess that up. But if that's the whole point of what you're here on earth to do, then yeah, it's going to be, it's just so, it's pretty shallow, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah, it's a very two-dimensional existence. Like that is
it's two-dimensional. It's like, I'm just here on earth and nothing transcending, nothing going up, none of that third dimension. And I made a joke to my friends, and I said, hey, like you're the end of the line, and like my seed is going to colonize Mars someday. Like, doesn't that make you feel like weird at all? Like everything's going, and it's not because you're you died or in a war or because of some sort of infertility problems or anything. It's just like, nah, I just don't really want to have kids. Like, and I got a girlfriend, I got a wife even, and it's just like, ugh, I don't know if we'll do that. Maybe it's like they think about it the same way that they would like getting a dog. It's bizarre.
Yeah, you see, the thing is also, and it's like I said, it's a two-dimensional existence. They're both of those dimensions revolving around, an obsession with materialism and and their plan. You understand? And that's the
Yeah.
that's the thing that I have a problem with. Is that it's not your plan. It's God's plan, and there is no getting around that. There is no way that you can deny the fact that we are here and it's God's plan. I mean, look, I can understand if you're a atheist gaming degenerate or whatever it is, and that's what you do and all of that, then rather don't have kids, actually, to be honest. But if you are a good willing Christian person and you have that kind of attitude, then you are so sorely on the wrong path. But even not, I understand that my calling on earth as a human is to glorify God, and what better way to glorify God than to create more life, yeah, I just think it's an obsession with the material and my plan. How I know this? Because I was one of those silly people, and this is why I feel quite passionate about family at this point in time, because as you know, Dylan, I mean, I started building my family from a young age. Not from a young age, sorry, from an old age, late, relatively. I mean, I only got married 6 years ago. My daughter was born 17 months ago. And hopefully there's another one on the way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But anyway, I started late, and because I was one of those wild, crazy people that said, "Well, I'm going to make sure that I'm financially comfortable before I have kids. I'm going to make sure that I am geographically comfortable, like I own property or whatever it is. I'm going to make sure that I am grounded. I'm going to make sure that I have 2 cars. I'm going to make sure that my lawn is cut daily. I'm going to make sure that I have a domestic that comes and cleans the house on a daily basis. I'm going to make sure that I have 12 pairs of shoes instead of 11 pairs of shoes." You understand what I'm saying? I was making up all kinds of crazy, stupid excuses.
Cock excuses.
Yeah, just absolute crap to not have children. And my mother used to tell me something profound when I was going through this idiotic phase. She used to say to me, "Have kids. You're never going to be ready. Like, this is the point. You are." And anyone out there that thinks they're going to be ready for children, you're an idiot. Okay? Stop that idiotic thinking. End it. Have babies. Okay? Do and make babies. Okay? It's a lot of fun. Believe me.
Yeah. And that was the thing, is this idea that somehow you got to have all these ducks in a row before you have kids. It's not really how it works. I mean, with me, in my case, like my criteria was, once I get, speaking of kids, once I get married, the idea was that I would get married once I was in a position to sort of like be able to have a family, like materially speaking. So not like rich or anything, but we got enough income, I guess was my goal. So, and after we got married, we had to delay having kids for a little bit for like health reasons and whatnot. But eventually, like once we were in a position where we could have them, it's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And that would be my advice to anybody. Don't worry about having all your ducks in a row. Just like once you have enough, and you can take care of yourself, and you can take care of your wife, and everything's fine. You're not where you want to be, but to get where you want to be, I mean, nowadays you're not going to be there until you're in your 40s, literally. So, and at that point, I mean, you don't necessarily want to be an old dad, and particularly, with the women, of course, there's always that biological clock that modernity likes to pretend isn't a reality, but it's there. So yeah, don't do that. So unless you're like, a 40-year-old master of game and you beg like a 20-year-old, yeah, I would not recommend that. But then again, also, if you're a 40-year-old master of game, the type of women that you'll be attracting might be suboptimal. Um, and so yeah, just keep that in mind. So yeah, I guess
But
that would definitely
either
be.
way, the thing is, just I so my wife and I are hoping for a second child soon. Okay, again, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Um, Lord knows from a monetary perspective. I mean, most people would say you're crazy, like you can't afford another child. You know? Like I was chatting to a friend of mine. He's a great guy. I love him to bits. He's a very, very close friend of mine. I consider him in my top 5 friends. Lad friends. Good gent. And I was telling him, yeah, we want to have a second child or whatever. And he said to her, oh well, then you can kiss sending your child to private school goodbye. And I said, so. He was shocked. He was shocked. I said, so. Then he was like, well, I mean, what about university? And I was like, what about university? I'm like,
If I had my way, they won't go.
yeah, exactly. Why would I
Unless
send
it's
my
for film
child to?
music, of course.
Why would I, as a loving parent, send my child to university? That's sending your child to university today, folks, is child abuse. Okay, end of story. You send your child off to university, like let's say, for example, a local 1-year UCT or whatever it is. Your child is coming back a communist. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you parents sending your children to these farms where they grow Marxists? But I mean, look, a lot of people will say, oh, but what about education? Yes, education is great. It's important and all of that. But for example, if I wanted my child to study engineering or accounting or whatever it is, there's no chance my child is going to study and waste money on studying something like, no offense to those guys out there, but she's not studying like social science or freaking marketing or anything like that. That's just not one of those weird, what's a feminist, I
Gender
don't know,
studies.
whatever, gender studies or whatever it is, like none of that stuff. But obviously if my child wants to go and wants to become an engineer or an accountant or whatever it is, then that this, specifically in a South African context, that child can go and study through UNISA and work part-time or work and study part-time. I mean, what's wrong with that? Pretty much everyone in my family got their degrees by working and studying part-time. So why is that such a bad thing? You don't send your child to university. Don't send your child to university.
Yeah, from Johann Badenhorst here, especially when they study history like I did. I too
Yeah.
studied history like you did, Johann Badenhorst. But with me, it was ironically practical because I went to university planning on being a teacher. So I'm like, well, at least I have like a track record like in my own head. But yeah, if you're just planning there on just going to get a degree and that's kind of it, terrible idea. Um,
Yeah.
I have a number of friends, and you know, to say their financial position was in any way benefited by the tens of thousands of dollars they spent on, whatever it was they studied. It's a scam. So,
Yeah,
and
man.
there's all the things you got to worry about, with depending on what you study, with the indoctrination and stuff that you'll get in university. Fortunately, the university I went to was just kind of moderate, sort of milk toast, not too edgy one way or the other. But a lot of places aren't like that, particularly the ones that everyone wants to go to, right? At that, it's ironic in some ways. If you go to a more mid-tier university, you're actually likely to get, depending on what you study, uh, a less skewed education than you would get at some sort of more prestigious institution. So yeah, my advice as far as that would go, I've already told my wife, when we have kids, I'm not going to send them to university unless it's for a specific thing that is like career orientated. So if they want to be an engineer, I mean, you have to go to university like legally. So it's like, okay, fine. If they want to be a doctor, same reason, or a lawyer, same thing. But for anything else, or they're just like, yeah, I just want to get a degree. No.
No,
So
no.
like we'd rather save some money together and like help you start a business or get an internship or go to a trade
And
school.
what have happened? Yeah, like you mentioned, trade school. Like there's no, my dad's because my dad's a electrician, and in my dad's day they had like an apprenticeship program. I believe they do still have it they'll probably have it in the US, and they have it yeah, but like very small stuff. But the thing is children nowadays, they all want to go to university. It's like or college, like they call it in the States. Like it's just like a thing. Like nowadays, it's like a thing. All children must go to university, which is ridiculous. Go out there, do a trade, go and become a plumber or a welder or something. You know what I mean? And you see, the thing is, the world has changed nowadays, and a lot of people don't want to do that kind of work. So
Yeah,
people are paying top
that's what
bucks
it
for
is.
them.
Yeah.
People are
And
paying top dollar for it.
it might be different in South Africa, but certainly if you're in a Western country, you can make a very comfortable living doing a skilled trade. Like my dad is a mechanic, and he makes over $100,000 a year. I probably never will make $100,000 a year, and I have, and I'm a professional, right? In quotes. So, yeah, I mean, if it just goes to show that, if what you want is to sort of just sort of make a income for yourself and do something. And to be honest, I've had a lot of blue collar jobs and stuff in my life, and some of those were the most enjoyable jobs I've had, like more so than certain office jobs. And
Yeah, look,
yeah,
there is a specific. Now, again, coming back to like a father and how a father develops himself and stuff. I strongly believe, I strongly believe that a man needs to know, a father as well, specifically, needs to know how to work with his hands. And I don't, for my work, my day job, I don't work with my hands, but I have a small little workshop or whatever in my garage. I have tools and I build stuff occasionally, and I do work with my hands, and I am able to work with my hands. And I think it's vitally important for men, because I think there's a almost like you can't feed the mind without feeding the body, and vice versa. If you want a strong mind, you have to have a strong body. If you want a strong body, you have to have a strong mind. And working, like what what you do, using your brain instead of your hands, you have to be able to find something now to keep your hands busy as well as your brain, so that you keep both of those two aspects in sync.
yeah.
That makes
No,
any sense.
that's an important thing, and it's the same thing too with like physical fitness as well. So, if you treat your body like garbage, the spirit, I think, does suffer from that. And also, if you're sort of helpless in the real world materially, like you can't fix anything, you can't sort of do anything with your hands, it is sort of emasculating, and it does sort of give you some sense of sense of satisfaction and sort of assuredness and sort of being able to do things yourself. And I think that's very helpful for man. And also, at a factory job, I get to listen to bass podcasts and videos like yours. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Is this
Firefox
this
is red.
person's YouTube name? Firefox is red, Explorer is blue, Google Plus sucks, and Chrome does too. That's classic.
Yeah. But I used to do that very thing. So for a number of summers, I had a landscaping, small little owner operator landscaping business.
Yeah.
And it was the best because just like what you're saying, like the whole day I'm doing things with my body and I'm like listening to Thomas Sowell audiobooks and interviews with Paul Gottfried and Mencken Club while I'm trimming a hedge or whatever. It was great. I loved it. Now, I guess sort of back on the subject of fatherhood. So in what ways has your life changed as a man? Sort of like, how has your relationship with your wife changed? There's of course the free time thing, which we sort of touched on a little bit, but apart from the best thing about being a dad, being that legacy and sort of, planting a seed to grow a tree, which, whose shade in which you will, not live to sit under. How has your life specifically changed and your relationship with your wife after having a child?
So I think every relationship between a husband and wife has general progressions. So it is, the first sort of courtship or dating period and stuff. Then it's, marriage and the sort of what they call the honeymoon phase and stuff, where everything's blissful and beautiful and it's just the two of you and you are, both working hard, everything's going lacquer, you're cruising along. And then you have the baby that comes along and it totally turns all of that upside down. I'll be honest, it's quite chaotic. And it's important, it's vitally important as a father in a partnership with your wife for you to maintain order in your domain or in your house or in your home. And a very based sorry,
I was just going to say, if I could jump in real quick, I think the biggest way I could sort of encapsulate this for me is like, once you're talking about that shift and sort of the progression of your marriage, but once you have a child, your wife goes from being a wife to becoming a mother first. And that's the big thing. And there's a big difference between being a wife and a mother. So anyways, go ahead.
Oh, very true. Yeah. So a very based, intelligent, mutual friend of ours once told us that, and it's always stuck with me, long before my daughter was born and everything. He said this to us. He said, remember that your daughter or your children are guests in your household, and make sure that you maintain that kind of understanding that it's your home, you as the man, it's your home, it's your domain. Your wife is your
helpmeet.
your helper, yeah. And your children are your legacy, or your children as they are. But you've got to understand that you've got to maintain that sort of, you've got to maintain some sort of order. But yeah, so your wife's transition from a wife to a mother as well as a wife is something quite fascinating to behold, because your wife changes in many ways. Well, I mean, for so far what I've seen, only good ways, positive ways. Your wife becomes almost, I mean, I've had so many times when I've sort of sat and watched my wife with my daughter, and I thought to myself, she's basically become my mother, like in the sort of the gentle nurture kind of way that she deals with with my daughter, and that sort of transition is quite something. But I want to also talk, and I want to talk about specifically about time and lack thereof of free time.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. So okay, a child takes up a lot of time, a heck of a lot of time. But I'm lucky. I have a wife that is very much too good for me, and she's very, very dedicated and all of that. But men are supposed to not have free time. Like, and when I say free time, I mean free time outside of the family. I mean, you have to be busy. You have to be constantly busy. What's that Bible verse? I think it's in Proverbs. Idle hands are devil's workshop. Well, it should be the same for idle minds. Idle minds and idle hands are the devil's workshop. So you have to be busy all the time. I mean, it's a good thing that we don't have spare time. Oh, there we go. Speak of the devil. The old man rocks up now.
Captain Rhodesia himself.
Yeah, look at him representing the roadies. But you have to be busy all the time. And it's a good thing if when you climb into bed at night you haven't really had time to focus on anything apart from your family and everything that you do as a father, whether it be work, supporting your family, protecting them, and basically being there for them all the time. So you shouldn't be given or and this is the thing, is this is part of becoming, when a father becomes a man or more of a man, is because a father should never ever, a man, any man without a child should never be idle, should never be lazy, should never have free time, should always be busy doing something. Okay, whether it be being creative or whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be like worker bees and just like constantly working and stuff, but you have to be productively busy all the time. You can't be just like you're allowed like leisure time. Like Dylan will know, my leisure time is spending constructive time with my based bros, braaiing. That's my leisure time. So that's my tomorrow. That's my downtime. Saturday is my downtime.
Mine too.
And
Guess where I'll
it's not. Yeah, exactly. So it's not my it's not like my sit on my backside and pick my nose. It's my get to know my base bros more. Fellowship with fellow Christian men, and the camaraderie and all of that, which builds you as a father and a man as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the on the free time going away thing, you're busy all the time, but at least for me, in a way, I've never been more kind of satisfied with life, because everything that I'm doing is like building to something else. So
Absolutely.
even like with my job, it's not necessarily what I'd like to do for the rest of my life. But now that I have a kid and I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed, all that jazz, it's like, hey, this is serving a purpose, and I see it serving a purpose. I see how important this is, and I take my work a little bit more seriously, and going to the store, getting nappies, doing this, doing that, helping out with the baby, whatever it is, even playing with him. It's really great, because you're essentially, I guess the difference between a man and a father is a father is essentially living for somebody else.
Mm.
That's, I guess, the best way I can put it. And it really gives you a nice sense of satisfaction and sort of fulfillment that you can't really. It'd be very hard to sort of get by doing something else if you're a normal guy. I mean, maybe if you're some savant, eccentric genius like Isaac Newton, and you just spend all day, all your free time inventing calculus. Well, yeah, sure, okay, fair enough. That's great. But I think for most people, you'd be hard pressed to sort of, I guess, live in such a way that is kind of being of service to others through your family that will give you as much satisfaction. And that's what I can guarantee you is that, yeah, you'll be busy, your free time will go away, and you'll have to like schedule your video game time to make it like a stream on your YouTube channel, like I did. It's great. It's really great. And those nights, then your baby goes to sleep, and everything's all done, and it's 9 o'clock, and you sit down for a minute with your wife or whatever, you're watching a movie, and you're like, it's those sweet, precious moments, and
Yeah,
you really relish. You really learn to relish just the simple things, and you enjoy each other's time, and and you get your free time. Like, we set up a routine, my wife and I, so that on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, she'll try to get him ready for sleep so that she can have, just a couple hours sort of to herself. And Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, she does that, and then Tuesday, Thursday, I sort of watch the baby, just get him tuckered out so that he's ready for bed, and then we're all able to sort of over the course of the week have like certain times where we can just kind of be alone, decompress a little bit. Because that still is important.
Oh, absolutely.
But the whole act of sacrificing your free time to invest in the creation, sustenance, and growth of a life is an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely it.
Now, I guess sort of moving on to, I guess, kind of our third point. What would you say is the chief role, or the chief roles of a father in the household compared to a mother? So I guess sort of what makes it different.
Well, I think as a Christian, I think that my chief role is to what about my Skyrim speedruns? I don't get it. Is that
he's talking about
video game reference?
He's saying like if he has a kid, he can't do so a speed run on a game is like when you try to beat a video game really, really fast. And he won't be able to play Skyrim really fast anymore. Try to make his records.
Isn't that like, I think I've played Skyrim. That's like a massive game, isn't it? Like it's
it's like an open world role-playing game where you're like Middle Ages.
You're not going to be able to speed play that or speed run that. I guess that's going to take up a lot. Yeah, sorry, Jan.
Speed
sorry,
run would be like 10 hours or something instead of 60. I don't know.
Sorry, Jan. Sorry to burst your bubble there, brother. But there's
you'll
not going
have
to be time for
horse.
that unless you don't sleep at all, and that's not very healthy. But yeah, okay. So my primary role as a father is I believe is to lead my family spiritually. I do believe in a strong Christian foundation within the family, and I believe that it is my job and my duty to I don't know if I'm looking for the right answer. I wouldn't say enforce, that would be a bit harsh, but I think it's my role as a father to portray a good Christian dad figure that my children will be able to look at and say, okay, well, that's how you treat a woman, or that's how you treat another guy, or that's how you treat your fellow man, and a model or a role model. Sorry, that's the one I was looking for. To be a good, solid Christian role model in the family. Obviously, there's the obvious ideas of being able to protect your family, provide for your family, and all of those. Those are things that all just that come from God ruling over the family, and me making sure that God is always within my family. That is check my dad. Yeah, and that's also so all of those things, discipline, providing, protection, all of those sort of things, they stem directly from God being the head of the house. And if you as a father maintain God as the head of your home all the time, then all those other things happen. So if asked what is my primary objective as a father, I would say my primary objective as a father is to maintain God's supremacy over my family, and always to make sure that we go to church, we pray together as a family, and all the other things will just fall into place. All the other things, the providing for your family, protecting them, kicking ass, like my dad said, being a king, all of those things come from God. And I think it's my goal as a father to make sure that I maintain that role and maintain God's supremacy over my family, if that makes any sense. For example, like I insist, I don't, we do kind of pray together as a family every day, but I do try to myself and my wife to sit down and pray together on a daily basis. We try. Recently, we've been slipping a bit, admittedly, but I do try and pray with my wife, and it all comes from me. It's me that's initiating it. It's me that's insisting on my wife and I sitting and praying together. It's me that's insisting on my wife going, and my wife and I going, and I, as a family, going to church on a Sunday, and all of these things. So it's me that is maintaining that. And I'm not saying that my wife wouldn't do it. I'm just making sure that it happens, and it's constantly in my family. Dylan, like we've had this chat before. Some people are blessed enough that they don't need that kind of rigid religiosity in their lives and stuff. I'm not one of those guys. I'm the type of guy that needs reminders of God all around me. That's why at my desk over here I keep my Bible, I keep my rosary at my desk as a constant reminder that I need to pull my socks up all the time. And some people will just say, well, just turn to God. He's there. He's always there. Sure, I understand that God is always there, but I'm the type of guy that needs to be reminded all the time. And yeah, but anyway, I'm waffling here.
No problem, man. That's what we're here to do. We're here to waffle. It's literally the point of the show.
Yeah, I like what my dad said over here. He said, look after the small things and the big things will look after themselves.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And my dad, just to give you an idea, you want to see like a proper boss patriarch. My dad's like a boss patriarch. He had 4 kids. And he actually fostered my cousins, my 2 cousins that lived with, for a big part of my formative years. My cousins lived in our house, and so I grew up in a big home, 6 kids or so.
Yeah, no, he was. It might be interesting to have your dad on sometime for the show. Talk about all his. He's an interesting guy. I'd like to.
My dad's not a refined guy in any way, shape, or form. He'll just tell. He'll say things as they are, like really. But he's nice. Based, and I love him. Like he's got a lot of respect for the old man. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Now, I guess, yeah, sort of the thing that I would say is the dad is sort of, and I've sort of noticed this in my, in my marriage. The dad is kind of the guy who has his hands on the tiller a little bit. So think about it like my wife is, she's the first mate, right? And what does his first mate do? The first mate's in charge of a lot of the on the ground stuff and sort of like managing, you know, the sailors, as it were, the kids, and they're the one who actually calls the shots on a lot of day to day stuff about sort of how things are sort of going on, right? And so yeah, like my wife has tons of leeway and tons of influence, tons of input, about sort of how things are going to be the way they are. I defer to her on a lot of things because, she's the one who's keeping an eye out on this and that. And, things go over my head or I don't care about them or they're not that important to me, but they are to her. And they're things that sort of make a better house, a better household all around. And that's the role that sort of women play. But, as a dad, father, husband, you're the steady hand on the rudder, I guess.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned earlier, sort of a priest. So yeah, the father is sort of should be the spiritual head of the household. Now, in the West, a lot of times it's sadly the women who are sort of the spiritual head of the household. But what that ends up doing is usually the kids sort of fall away from that as they get older. Whereas if
Not
fathers,
in all Western houses, they do. Only those filthy Protestant houses,
but
Kidding. There's lots of based Protestant brothers out
yeah,
there.
yeah, I know a few. Some of my best friends are based Protestants.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? But the oh yeah, so one of the things is that children are actually much more likely to sort of retain the faith into their adulthood if the father is sort of the spiritual head of the household. It's just a fact.
Mm.
Um, and you could say for whatever reason that is, but I think men are sort of blessed with the ability to lead, right? And you might not be a leader of any kind outside of your family, but within your family you should be, and you can, if you are the king if only you take the crown, essentially.
Mhm.
um, and just as your wife, she's the queen if only she'll take the throne. So there's that I think is sort of the thing to keep in mind. So like with my wife, she'll, on a lot of the big decisions, she'll defer to me, because women technically they're not really that comfortable making any sort of you know stress inducing decisions.
Yeah, it's exactly the same with my wife. But the weird thing is, sorry, Dylan, if I might
No,
just interrupt you there. The weird thing is it's not like it's like a written agreement in our marriage or whatever, like a contractual thing, like I make the big decisions, you sit down and shut up. No, like your wife, when she becomes a mother and all of that, she just does that. The role, if you as a husband and a man are doing the right things, all those other things like you were talking about now, where your wife defers all the bigger decisions onto you, those things just happen. Like it's amazing how that happens. They just a woman's nature just takes over, and she lets the husband, like you say, Dylan, make the big decisions.
Yeah, and like old Langton introduces here. My wife looks to me for most decisions. She gets a big say, but does defer to me. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's not like we're saying we're bulldozing our our wives or anything. What it is I think is the natural state of a mother is to be looking after the children, caring, nurturing, being concerned about the day to day. Hey, you need to get this, you need to get that. This needs to be taken care of. Blah blah blah. But as far as like questions about like where are we going to live, like what are we going to do, sort of big sort of decisions, those are usually sort of taken on by the husband, and
Yeah,
I think
final
that's
decisions. It's not like we have a
yeah,
authoritarian approach to it. Like we say,
yeah,
okay, I want to live in Newlands, so shut up. I'm going to live in Newlands. No, it's like a you converse about it, you talk about it, blah blah blah. But
she's the
eventually,
queen's counselor. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But the one that pulls the trigger is you, as the husband and the man. You're the one that pulls the trigger. Like there is decisions that are made, small decisions along the way, but the big decisions, the husband's always the one that pulls the trigger.
right. Yeah, and it's kind of like that joke. I mean, if you want to see this kind of in microcosm, just ask her where she wants to eat, and then she'll be like, I don't know, like this or that, no, gee, and then you end up just like deciding for her. Like,
Very often, my wife just says, "Yeah, Scott, just make a decision." Like just choose,
yeah,
man.
they
Because she
don't,
doesn't
they
want
don't
to.
even
She
want,
doesn't want
they
to.
don't even want the
Doesn't
pressure of choosing food. Like,
Yeah, she doesn't want the pressure of it. And every
yeah,
time she does that, I kind of in the back of my mind, I think to myself, repeal the 19th, like
repeal the 19th.
because it's
Just
quite
who are you
clear
gonna
that
vote for?
it's
Satan
quite,
or
yeah,
the
exactly.
base monarch? I don't know. It's a lot of pressure.
But it's like that. It's like we say. It's like they don't want the pressure of having to make the decision or pull the trigger. And that's
Yeah.
that's the fact. I don't mind taking the risks. Like this is the thing. I don't mind it. It's a man's
Yeah, men
job to
are
take
men are
risk.
much
You know what I
men are
mean?
much less risk averse. That's proven out in basically every study that's ever been done. But like Kit Spicken says, micro versus macro. I think that's an excellent way to look at it. So
Yeah.
yeah, women are big on the micro stuff, right? Oh, this bedding cover would look nice. Oh, maybe we should get those curtains replaced. Oh, we should. What do you think about sort of what if we did this weekend and visited my friends or whatever it is.
Mhm.
That stuff, big women domain, right? That's
Yeah.
that's where they have a lot. That's where they sort of take the lead a lot because really for most of it, men don't particularly care about the micro stuff all that much. I know I don't. Um, it's oh, Scott, are you still there?
Yeah. I'm still here. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay, you just got very still. I'm like, oh shit, did my computer freeze?
Just
Yeah,
froze.
that's good.
But yeah, that's true, Dylan, with regards to making those decisions and stuff. And I
Yeah,
do think, like, particularly the ones that you refer to, were like, oh, is this duvet cover going to look nice, or this color going to look nice, or whatever. And that's so true because in my home layout, Dylan. The inside is all my wife. Like that's everything
yeah.
that goes on inside is hers. But this super based domain over here, you step into my great hall,
Yeah.
it's my domain, and
Or
it's
my broom closet.
yeah,
This is my broom
yeah,
closet. Okay,
yeah, it's my
I'm
broom
king in this
closet.
broom closet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's what like that's how it works here, and I don't mind. But then obviously, I mean, if my wife, if there's bigger decisions to be made in the house, then she'll consult me, obviously.
yeah. And of course, anything that costs like a lot of money or whatever is you definitely both want to talk about that. So if you're going to talk about something that's going to cost 10 grand, you don't just sort
Mm,
of make a 10 grand decision without talking about each other because
yeah,
that's just a good way to piss each other off. Like
exactly,
spending
exactly.
big, expensive, frivolous. So as the man or the wife, you talk about it, but I mean, with that, 10 grand purchase or whatever, it will usually be you who sort of makes a call on that. Sort of, let's look
So there's
here.
a super chat there. Dylan, looks like we made $2.50 for Scott's based bri. That'll buy 6 hot dog
All
rolls.
right, cool. I guess we'll handle this first. I was thinking, yeah, we're about halfway anyways. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, by the way. From Red Hammerhead, $5. Thanks, man. All right. So let's look here. It says, I'm 28 with a stay-at-home wife and 3 girls. I mean,
Ah,
guys,
based.
perfect. 5, 2, and 1 years old. I've incurred too much debt and I have no free time, but it is 100% worth it. Yes, be more like Red Hammerhead. Have your kids, young and early. And again, the goal is don't just be set up. Don't be like, oh, I need to have, X amount of cars. I want to be able to have my first house and be able to make a second down payment on my lake house. That's gay. Don't think like that. Just be like, I'm in a position now where I have enough. Okay, there, go. And the thing, moving to South Africa was actually a big eye opener for me, particularly because of sort of, my in-laws and where they grew up and how they grew up. My perception of what was necessary to raise a family totally changed after I came to South Africa. I'm like, yeah, I don't need nearly as much as I think I do, like in the United States. So the mindset of like, yeah, we got enough money for food, we got enough money for housing, we got enough money for medical aid, we got enough money to have like a little bit of like mild fun on the weekends, like maybe once every few months, maybe we can go away for a weekend or something. That's all you need. Like, and so yeah, I mean, don't put too high expectations on sort of where you should be at a certain point before you have a family. Just make sure that your trajectory is going up. So if you're fine, if you can take care of yourself, you and your wife can take care of yourselves, and your trajectory is okay, that's what matters. And I don't know about the too much debt part. If you can avoid debt, try. But I understand, like with a mortgage or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that might be something you have to look into. But definitely the sacrificing free time for having a family and stuff. I mean,
you're not
going to miss it
Dylan,
that much.
Langton Industries said over there, he said, hang in there, Red. Nothing worth doing is easy. And that's the point. It's, all the greatest things in life are extremely difficult, and but I can tell you one thing, Red, like, you are blessed, and it'll repay itself a million times over as you get older and all of that. I mean, to have 3 kids at age 28. Are you done now, Red, or are you guys?
Yeah, and Red, because you sent a super chat, man, and again, thanks for that. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, you can just leave a comment, and I'll try to find you a little bit later. But
I'd be interested to know if he's done having kids or if he still wants some boys in there.
Yeah, I think every guy probably wants at least one fellow XY chromosome running around. But yeah. So more backpats from Rob McLaren. Well done.
Yeah,
well done.
My dad said when I said my dad had like basically 4 of his own kids and 2 foster kids, he said it should have been 10 kids. That's based.
It should have been 10 kids.
Wild. Like, but it's interesting.
I started a bit too late because I kind of caught up in the Rhodesian Bush War for a little while, and then I had to move to South Africa after Mugabe took over.
Dylan, I learned a lot from my dad with regards to that, and it's I detailed it in that video that I made about it, because I spoke about my dad's his time spent in the Bush War and all of that, actually going off to war and all of that. And like, I'd spoken to my dad on and off about it, but I'd never he never really told me in detail about things and stuff. So I did ask him the one time. I asked him, like, hey, you ever kill someone? And he was like, yeah, of course, it was a war. It was either them or it was me. And that as it might sound strange to you, but like a lot of during the border war in South Africa. So I grew up in the 90s. That was my generation. And a lot of kids that I knew, their father or their parents had been sent off to the border war, whatever. And a lot of them didn't. They never saw any action. They just parked off at the border and just filled sandbags and stuff. But it was different in the Rhodesian War. Like, if you got drafted, you were pretty much guaranteed to see action. And so that's why it's significant, because I thought my dad was just like one of those sandbag fillers, but he wasn't. He'd actually gone.
like a barracks barman in Salisbury or something.
Yeah, and he had gone off
Not a
and
barracks
actually,
barman in Salisbury. Nope.
yeah, not a barracks barman in Salisbury, an actual fighting man, and that
Short
like
shorts with an FAL in the jungle sort of stuff.
yeah. Well, no, my dad had the camo long pants. I think he might have had shorts at some stage, but I'm pretty sure because he was just a rifleman. So he had
It's just whenever you Google image search like Rhodesians like in the bush war, it always shows those guys with like the short
that
shorts and the
roadie,
FALs.
that roadie with that hat on and stuff. Yeah, it's classic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the reason
All
why
right.
I'm talking about this is that it's men that need to learn to fight for your family, and that's also vitally important. Fight for your family, not necessarily going out there and with an FAL and actually killing
Fighting down
people
in
and stuff.
in the bush.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what I mean. I mean fighting for your family in the sense that we have to understand, Dylan, that all governments around the world, no matter where you are, they hate you. They literally despise us. They despise us that want to have children and raise a good, strong Christian family and all of that. They seriously despise us. And us as fathers and men need to now fight for our families. How do we do that? We raise them in God as strong family units, and that's basically how we go about today, fighting for our families, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point, and relevant to sort of what you're talking about with your dad and stuff. The Western culture, generally speaking, has produced a lot of very, I guess, sort of soft people, and I'm not trying to say like I'm some sort of hard dude and whatnot. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of conflict avoidance, just because life is so easy in the modern era, and sort of avoiding conflict, just sort of go on to get along, that can't be sort of how you live your life at all times. Now of course you need to have discernment and sort of how you, I guess, sort of take action or whatever. But if you see a situation where in your conscience you're convicted that you should do something, you need to do something. You can't just sort of be like, oh, someone else will do it, or oh, if I speak up, then my neighbors won't like me, or whatever it is. No, you need to speak out about this sort of stuff and sort of in your own way, sort of stand as a bulwark against sort of all the crazy shit that's going on out there, particularly for the sake of your family. And I guess that sort of leads nice into sort of my next question for you, which is, I guess, kind of how, I guess, compared to sort of how I grew up or you grew up or whatever, how is raising a kid today different compared to, I guess, when you and I were lads or whatever? What are the specific things today that make parenting, I guess, sort of a challenge in the modern era?
I think the mechanics of raising a child are pretty much the same. You go through the same thing. Your child is going to be naughty. You're going to have to discipline them. You have to stay married. You have to raise your child. You have to educate your child. You have to do all of those things. So the mechanisms are all exactly the same. I don't think those mechanisms will ever change because there's only one way to raise a child. I do think, however, that the pressure applied by dark forces has increased significantly, probably tenfold, since I was a very young child in the 80s. And I do think that, and it's not that that it's something. So basically, it's increased so much so that it's pretty much almost common consensus that the sort of the war against the family. Like, for example, if I were to use an example, I would say something like, when I was a child, when I was a baby, seeing something or an advertisement related to homosexuality was,
Mm.
you never saw it. You just never, ever saw it. It was nowhere. You literally never saw it, ever. And now it's out in the open and accepted as a norm. Okay. So it's not like it's a it is a conscious attack on the family, but it's not like it's a it's something that is and this is this is the scariest part, is it's not that it's something that is viewed nowadays as an attack on the family. It's almost, they've managed to make it acceptable, so totally accepted.
Mm.
And the world right now that we live in today is, from a social perspective, is totally unrecognizable to what the world was like when my dad was my age with small kids. And that, I think, is the most difficult and different part to being a father now than to being a father in the 80s and stuff. The mechanisms are all the same. They're all there. They're still the same things. But the insidious nature of this looming darkness that pushes down on us as a family on a daily basis, all day, every day, is something that was non-existent when I was a child.
Yeah, that sort of goes to the title of the of this stream, kind of being a dad in the ashes of civilization. The I mean, I'm not that old. I'm 29, but I have good memories of sort of the mid late 90s. When I was a small kid, and just like what you're saying, a lot of this stuff was just entirely foreign, that we're sort of seeing now. Like you couldn't really sort of imagine, and I remember doing things that were perfectly normal, back in the day, which would be sort of scowled at, in certain social settings now, and it's just so, and not just sort of the way boys act and what's expected of sort of how the sort of boys will be boys mindset, and this will sort of like have sort of boys only spaces and activities, and it's sort of understood that girls don't do this sort of stuff, and it's fine for them to sort of have like gender segregation, um, and also just sort of these other sort of more culturally radical ideas. um, I guess kind of I guess one of the big things that sort of where things started, you started seeing kind of, I guess, sort of where things were going was after uh, during the war on terror, when you had sort of the rise of sort of new atheism, I guess, was sort of kind of the big sort of cultural, kind of one of the big sort of cultural sort of battering rams that happened. And at the time it was like edgy and, oh, this is like the cool stuff. But then when you sort of
Atheist
try to,
evangelicals.
yeah, atheist evangelicals and whatnot, but then sort of when you try to sort of attack faith and morals and stuff, and sort of religious presuppositions that people have, um, it's not that they don't believe in nothing at that point. They tend to believe in everything or anything, as sort of G.K. Chesterton pointed out.
Hmm.
So I think the trying to sell people on secular humanism and stuff, it just sort of left them wide open to sort of being subverted in other ways. And that's what we're seeing now. So sort of the post, I guess, skeptic era, and kind of moving on now to, I guess, kind of progressive radicalism and sort of the cult of civil rights. That's sort of where we're at today, and it's eating up everything. And I guess kind of more on sort of a practical level, one of the things that you have to be concerned about now, which you didn't have to be so much, you still did, but not nearly to the same degree, concerned about in the past, is now you got to really worry about sort of the prevalence of media and just how everywhere it is. So, and I don't just mean like the media with sort of a capital M, but I mean just forms of media. It's everywhere. Like your phone is a computer, your
You're
TV is a computer,
hyper-stimulated all day, every day. Like that's
hyperstimulated,
also.
all hyperstimulated all the time, and you got gadgets and things everywhere. And nothing pisses me off more than sort of when I go to a restaurant and I see like all of these kids just sort of like zombies, sort of like looking at their phones and stuff. I mean, I say, nothing pisses me off more. I don't really get mad. It's just like an eye roll every time. I'm like, why are you like turning your kids into zombies? And it's easy as a parent, I guess, sort of today, sort of being busy and whatnot, and thinking, not necessarily having to, but thinking you need to do all these things. I need to, do this. I need to do that. I need to put my kid in this. I need to put my kid in that. We need to have after school this. Blah, 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 blah. We need to keep that. We need to keep my kid busy all the time with structured activities. Bullshit. No, you don't. And sort of being able to be like, here, just take this. Okay, now I can relax. As a parent, so I understand the temptations there, but you got to be really careful with that sort of thing, because the sort of stuff that exists out there on the internet, which is easily accessible to a kid, very impressionable. You got to watch that bigly.
Yeah, especially as a kid. I mean, like a young child. I mean, again, some of my friends who have young kids and stuff under the age of 10 and stuff, like, I say, okay, my child's got a cell phone. I'm like, what? Like, what is a 10-year-old doing with a cell phone? Why? And a lot of it comes from peer pressure, though. A lot of it, all of their friends' kids have it, all of that. So it's basically that. It makes no sense to me why a 10-year-old should need a cell phone. And we were this hyperstimulation thing. I want to just mention something. We were talking about video games on another WhatsApp group with another bunch of based friends and stuff of mine. And we were, teach your kids to play, like actually play. I'll never forget. My dad used to. This is so cool. My dad used to have a lot of like Rhodesian camo, and we used to, as kids, we used to take the Rhodesian camo and like dress in it. And my dad would teach us how to hide and how to camouflage ourselves, and it was very cool. We were taught how to play. I was 10, 11 years old or something at the time. And what you find, Dylan, is that when you obviously I'm involved in my church youth and stuff, and they're not like that young, but a 10-year-old child will probably enjoy far more a game of hide and seek than they will a game of, what's that game with the blocks called? What's it called?
Oh, Minecraft.
That all the kids are obsessed with. Okay, but that child, and I know, I mean, I have a niece and nephew who are 10 and 8 years old, and they love nothing more than to be in the swimming pool or be jumping on the trampoline or chasing the dogs around the yard or something, rather than playing Minecraft or whatever that game is. Kids love that stuff, man. They don't like these video games and all of that. The reason why they like why kids play video games so much is because parents, like you said, they just want to shut their kids up. And they're like, yeah, Daddy and Mommy need to go and relax now. Okay, you're too much. Here's a
Go
thing. But you know what? But you know what the thing is? But you know what the thing is you can literally. I mean, my parents were never helicopter parents. We used to play. Like my parents would go and sit in the house and chat with their adult friends or whatever, and we'd be screwing around in the yard. Like I remember the one time my dad had one of those plastic pools, and he got so upset because we used to puncture the bloody thing all the time, and like we had friends over there and stuff, and I would take take my bicycle and put it inside the pool and be riding my bicycle around and around in the pool. I mean, like that sort of thing. Like parents, you don't need to be watching your child 24/7. Guess what? Your child is going to fall. Your child is going to cut their lip open, graze their knees, step on a rusty nail, get stung by a bee. They're going to get stitches. They're probably going to break a bone in their body as well. Okay. It's not going to kill them. Okay. Let them do it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I can be sitting, I feel rocks, bro. I feel rocks for me sitting over here and my daughter running in the yard over here. And as long as she's in the eyes, like I can see where she is, I feel rocks. Like I don't care. I don't need to be hovering over her the whole time.
No, definitely. And sort of on to the point that Dave Bergeson was saying, we love video games as much as playing together. I guess sort of with me, when I was a kid, my parents already kind of understood like the role that or the effect that too much video games or whatever we liked could sort of have on us. And so sort of as a result of that, my parents were very clear that video games is for the weekends. And during the rest of the week, you got to like sort of find
But
something else to do.
Dylan, wait. I need to go. I need to talk to his point over there. Where he said we
Okay.
loved video games as much as playing together. Okay, Dave, video games when I was a child. Okay, we had Mortal Kombat, we had FIFA, we had Contra. I mean, you want to talk about like old
Mario
video
Bros.
games? We had Mario Brothers. We had the Sega Mega Drive with.
Speaking of, I should probably bring my. Maybe I should tomorrow. I should bring Contra over and we can play that or something.
Oh, great! You got it.
Yeah. I got this little Super Nintendo that comes like preloaded with like a ton of games and stuff, and it's got Contra 3 on it.
Brilliant! You bring it. I have a projector in here. I'll put it on the projector.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It'll be fun. But video games in those days had a goal, had a score, had a
and it was competitive.
It had a finity, a
right.
final stage, a final boss, a end of game. Okay. Games today don't. Games today are designed to keep a child in front of a computer forever. They're not designed for children to beat the game, to challenge someone or whatever it is and stuff. They're designed to keep a child in front of a computer forever. Okay. I loved playing video games when I was a kid. I played plenty of video games as a kid. I'm not saying that I'm anti-video games. I don't mind video games, okay? But I don't believe in this like weird Twitch, I think it's called, streaming video games. And I mean like 10-year-old children.
All games all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, 10-year-old children playing video games and literally playing streaming for 6 hours. I mean, what? What is a 10-year-old child doing in front of a computer for 6 hours? That's grotesque.
Yeah. No, and I guess that's the important thing. And also, like with me at least, a lot of the games that I played and the gaming that I did when I was younger was with friends. Like my friends would come over and we'd play GoldenEye together for like a couple hours or something, So it was sort of a different kind of thing. It wasn't, and I guess kind of the difference with a lot of modern gaming is it's very isolating, right? So it's you and a screen. Now, of course, there are sort of MMO multiplayer online stuff and whatnot, and that's fine. I'm not saying those are necessarily inherently bad, but we're talking about kids here, not sort of adults who can sort of like who sort of know how to manage their time.
Mm.
If you give a kid, it's like offering a kid that is sort of like offering like a crackhead crack and telling him not to smoke it is
It's
basically what it
exactly
is.
that. It's exactly that. I mean,
Because
unless you think a child is a free agent, then that's just
yeah,
ridiculous.
or like having like a going to like a horny high school teenager and like leaving like a Playboy out and being like, all right, now you're not going to look at this. I'm going to leave this here. Don't look at this.
Yeah,
And they'll be like,
exactly. I
oh,
mean,
okay. It's the
that,
same
and
thing. Like
but there are
you
like, I
can't.
mean, but
These are things that you can't trust certain types of people to use responsibly. So if you give
absolutely.
a kid unlimited access to the phone, unlimited access to video games, and all this sort of stuff, it's going to sort of retard their kind of development essentially and their
Yeah,
ability to make real interpersonal relationships. So,
and that's
and I
also
guess
that's
that's my
also
point on
Dylan. That's also something that a parent definitely needs to do. Now, I think one of the points that you sent to me earlier was speaking to how do you shelter your how do you shield your
yeah,
kids from
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah. That's something
degeneracy
I
and
love
and,
about
and all of that. I was chatting to Russell, my brother, also good, solid based guy, and we were talking about evil and how evil, guys, we live in the world, okay, and who is the master of the world is Satan and the devil. He is the ruler of the world, okay, and his evil permeates everywhere in the world. The same evil that is around me right here in this room is the same evil that is in a Amish settlement in Pennsylvania or whatever, wherever they are. The same evil exists in New York City that exists in the Vatican in Rome. The same evil exists everywhere. So to assume that your children are never going to come across evil and are never going to be exposed to some sort of evil or bad things in the form of, talk of homosexuality or pornography or whatever it is. If you think your child is never going to be exposed to that, you're incredibly naive. Okay, no amount of sheltering or keeping your children out of institutions and that is going to do that. The evil is everywhere. There's nothing that you can do about it. But sorry, I said there's nothing you can do about it. There's everything that you can do and everything that you should do about it. And what you should be doing is you should be training your children to defeat evil and training your children to spot evil, to fight it, and to defeat it. Okay. You can't become a good fighter if you're not sparring. Okay. I'm not saying that your children should be involved in degeneracy, but they should definitely spar with it. And test
it.
their muscles and lift some weights to strengthen themselves against degeneracy. And so, yeah, I don't think that there's any way. I don't think that sheltering your child is going to, because we live in this world. This world is an evil place, and no amount of sheltering is going to protect your sweet little angels from the evil that's out there.
Yeah, and something related to what you were talking about, sort of training yourself against the evil. Sort of, and you think sort of, how do I do that? What's a practical example of that? But I'll tell you one. When I was younger, and I think partially as a result of this is kind of why, you know, despite sort of, the problems we may or may not have had, like my brothers and I, none of us ever became atheists or even really tempted with it or agnosticism even. And part of the reason is because when we were sort of brought up, one of the things that my parents did consciously is they sort of had us all, sort of do some sort of apologetic stuff as, just sort of, like, hey boys, like watch this. And it wasn't presented in like sort of a lecture way. It was like, it was sort of interesting. And we're like, hey, like, what are you guys sort of watching or whatever? And like, yeah, come on, watch this. And and that is sort of like a good example of it, sort of having your kids, and not in a preachy sort of like, you got to read this sort of way, but sort of uh, the experience of sort of having apologetics at sort of like an early age basically protected us from sort of like basic bitch atheism, essentially, which is basically the only sort of atheism most sort of people encounter. And that was sort of like a good way of sort of preparing me, particularly also sort of when I went into university, where it's all sort of material, all sort of secular and stuff. I kind of got up like with sort of university, a little bit of partying and stuff, but I never really went crazy or anything because largely because of that sort of training I had, training, you could call it, sort of when I was younger. And, that was sort of a big help. And, there are some other things that, maybe my parents could have done, a little different or a little better, and they were great parents. And I'm not sort of dogging them or anything, or saying that they did a bad job, not at all. But, sort of having a sort of or a sort of like what you were saying, Scott, with sort of the dad sort of being the priest of the house and sort of really trying to sort of like make that sort of an important part of the family's identity, not just his, but making it part of what the family is. And the best example I can, or one of the better examples I could think about that is sort of like my wife. She and I'm proud to say that she was a virgin when I married her, and it wasn't by accident. It was because of the sort of man that her father was. And
Bless her and bless her dad.
he was sort of protective and stuff.
Amen.
But he was also sort of loving and sort of respectful, but he was always the man of the house, and like he was respected as that, regardless of whatever else was going on. And he was also the priest of the home. He made sure that his girls sort of, imbibed in sort of the Christian waters, and as a result, as they got older, some might get a little bit wild. They might, go drinking or whatever, but they internalized that morality for like the big things. So they had a number of opportunities, to like sort of slip up, as it were, but they never did, because they're like, no, like they that sort of that sort of what I said. It's not that my dad's a Christian or like I go to church. It's like, we are a Christian family. That's what I am. That's sort of what my dad raised me to be. And so that they could sort of go in a situation like, where I came to South Africa, and like, my wife or my girlfriend at the time and I went away for the weekend, and, her dad gave me the talk, and, he's just looking out for me, or he's looking out for his daughter. And, I'm just some guy from Alaska and whatnot, but I'm like, oh, future father-in-law, don't even worry about it. Like we're all on the same page here. And he could do that sort of with trust, because he knows the daughter that he raised, and he sort of knows, sort of by that point, the sort of boyfriend that she had and whatnot. And that was all good. And like, even while we were sort of staying together at his house, you guys sort of don't sleep in the same bedroom and stuff. Like he's old school. So those are the sorts of things that, we're sort of talking about, sort of preparing your children to sort of spar with the world, right? So again, sort of apologetics, I think, is something practical, something helpful that you can do. And also just trying to model what good behavior is for your children. And again, sort of being the leader of the house. And I think all those sorts of things. And also another big important thing on sort of preparing is he was very big on peer group. What sort of friends does, my daughter have? I don't like this guy, or I don't like this chick. Don't hang out with them. I don't want them at my house. That sort of thing. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, the effect that peer group has on influencing somebody basically goes up with age. And then it's kind of like a diagram. So it goes like this. It's mostly parents. And then it goes up, and then all of a sudden, parents goes down, and then peer influence becomes much bigger in adolescence. So, and that's something you really got to look out for. So, choose who you're choose the you decide what sort of people your kid is going to associate with. Make sure they associate with people that you would like them to be like, right? So that
It's
was
also
another thing.
it's also just to touch on that as well, Dylan. It's also got to as a father and a parent and a family, as a husband and wife. That also applies to your children will model their choices on peers and stuff, on the people that you choose as your peers, as parents and family as well. So, for example, as a father and a husband and wife, have good friends. You know, don't be having
Yeah.
friends that are wild and crazy and that sort of thing. You know, you can have them, but they're not really like the guys that you want to have over for your brides and all that sort of thing. You know, but you can know them. But you have to choose your friends wisely, and your children will choose theirs wisely.
No, that's good. That's a really good point. And I think it's no mistake. Like I still have like a lot of my old friends. Like I didn't ever like disassociate with all of my friends back home, but like most of my good friends nowadays are people like Scott. Essentially, they're
Mm,
other Christian dads
mm,
by and large, or aspiring Christian dads or whatever. And that's not an accident. It's because sort of at this point in my life, and I don't even think it was like a conscious decision that I made. It was just like, this is me now, sort of at my point in my life. This is kind of who I want to be. And this is kind of the sort of people who are kind of want to do that sort of thing too. And like, I don't even think, like, it wasn't even a conscious decision. It was just, I just kind of instinctively knew, like, I guess that's sort of what I should be doing or something. But it's
yeah, it's
really funny. I still have like a lot of my sort of buddies back home, but I guess like kind of what we were talking about earlier, that at the beginning of the show, that interest in kind of, I guess, sort of earthly things. I mean, I don't want to sound snobby because I am interested in earthly things for better and for worse, but
mm,
the I don't know. It's just a lot of what used to seem important to me just isn't anymore. I
mm.
guess is just the basic way I can put it. And now it's all about sort of legacy and you know, kind of, I guess, that third dimension we were talking that you brought up, Scott. So
Yeah, that becomes profoundly clear when you become a father and all of that. But I want to just touch on something as well, back to the whole point of preparing your children and equipping your children to face degeneracy and evil and all of that. There's an interesting example that we can use, and that's and it's so weird. Like it's so bizarre. The the Amish have been brought up in almost every single one of the live chats that I've had, for quite a few times. But anyway, so the Amish are a prime example. They equip their children with all of the stuff that they need, and then I think when they 16 or 21 or something, they say, right, off you go, fly, and you know make your own choices. And that's there has to be that. As a parent, you cannot be throttling your child. I mean, I know for a fact, I know parents when I was growing up who throttled their children, and their children today are like full-blown degenerates, like next level porno creep, drugs, full-blown porno creep, because they throttled their children. They wouldn't let their children experience anything. Okay, but you have to be preparing your children and believe that what you've taught them and the grace of God is going to be strong enough for them to defeat degeneracy, okay, and to come right and 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 fight the degeneracy and come back to God, start a family, get married, start a family, and like the old reactionary opinions saying, get Jesus, get a wife, get a child, get a gun, and get reactionary.
Yeah.
So
The
I
punchline.
want. That's what I'm saying. Like I want your child has to be prepared, and the only way that your child is going to be prepared against evil is if they've come against evil at some stage in their lives. You cannot be prepared to fight evil if you've never come against it.
That is, yeah, that's a very good point, Scott. Because I think a lot of people make the mistake of being like, the world's effed up, so I'm just going to keep my kid away from the world. And then what happens eventually is they'll be like, "Hey, Dad, or whoever, you lied to me, or you kept me away from all these other things." Ah, ugh. And then they just,
Take
they
off
go
all my
hog.
clothes and go
Yeah,
and be in a porno movie or something,
yeah,
and that's
they go hog wild. And so, but what you need to do, and that's not saying let them do whatever they want, but like, Scott was saying, you got to introduce these things to them in a way that doesn't glorify it, but sort of lets them be aware of the reality of the situation. But by that point, hopefully you will have built that important thing that I've talked about, where they've internalized the morality, they've internalized the faith, they sort of know how to sort of be a good person. And then as they get older and these things are sort of introduced to them sort of piecemeal, and you're preparing it for them along the way, so that when they get out there in the world, it's not a surprise, and they can sort of act sort of, with virtue essentially. And I guess that's the ultimate goal. And, even with the best parenting, still, you'll have that mess up kid who, you have like 5 kids and like 4 of them are great, but one of them is a drug addict or whatever.
like there's a
Um,
there's a thing, I know that I'm not quite convinced on the whole homeschooling thing. I do like the idea of small village schools and all that sort of thing. I know that Dylan's like a
how dare
homeschool
you?
oak and stuff.
How dare
Dylan,
you?
Dylan's still like working on me. He's like, oh, you homeschooling was. But anyway, so I'm not totally convinced yet. Okay, and I say yet because I'm still open to the ideas and all of that, and I do take them logically and all of that. But the reality of it is that no amount of homeschooling your child, no amount of sending your child to the best private schools, no amount of mollycoddling and sheltering your child is going to guarantee your child's success. Like this is not an equation that as a father you just say, well, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do Z, I'm going to do Y, and as long as I do those 3 things, everything's going to be fine. No, it's a there is no guarantee. You got to understand that you're dealing with a human over here. You're not dealing with a robot that you can just program and stuff. So
Right.
prepare yourself also for pain and hurt. Important
Yeah.
fact as well.
Yep. No, definitely. And yeah, I guess that's the thing too, even the best laid plans still fail, right? Because like Scott said, we're not dealing with humans. We're dealing with, um, you know, I'm sorry, we're not dealing with robots. We're dealing with humans here. So people still have agency, and the wiles of Satan can, talk to your kids as well. So even the mighty fall, right? And the Bible's full of examples like this. History's full of examples like this. Your own life is full of examples like this, and people that you know. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's the fact. So I'm just wondering here with
I think he's
those.
talking about it's your drawing board at the back. It's
Am
your
I
board.
insane, or is his back window at a 15-degree angle? No, that's actually not a window at all.
Window.
It's
Yeah,
that's a
I think
big that's a big old
he
that's a
made a
flip
comment of, yeah,
chart.
why
That's
is
a flip
Patriarch's
chart.
back window something out of a Rocky Horror story?
Yeah, that's a flip chart turned backwards, so I don't
Yeah,
dox myself too much
yeah,
because there's
yeah.
stuff on there. But yeah. Anyways, that's maybe. Okay. But anyways, yeah. Let's continue on. So I guess kind of how do we prepare? Yeah, that's good. So I guess kind of last question before we sort of wrap up and go to final thoughts. And again, thank you guys for the support. I see that other super chat there from Firefox. We'll read that in a minute here at the end. But I guess if any of you other guys have any questions or pressing things, you could send them as a super chat or whatever, or we'll handle your questions at the end. So thanks again for that, guys. Do not want to be ungrateful. But I guess kind of for you/me in particular, what are sort of the challenges of being a parent in South Africa relative to other places?
Oof, where do I start? No, I'm kidding. I'm not like, there's, a lot of people. I'm a serious person, and I'm also a very relaxed person, a joking person and stuff. I have a very good sense of humor, but I can be very serious as well. And a lot of the times when I get serious, people think I'm complaining and I'm bitching, and but I really don't. I'm not. In South Africa, as a parent, the most obvious issue is the instability. The idea that that we live in a country that is governed by absolute maniacs, and there's very little that on a large scale that we can do about it. Because I'm a white Christian family in South Africa, and my values and stuff are absolutely abhorrent to the ruling government. And there's that's the obvious challenge, is the uncertainty and stuff. But I was listening to a brilliant stream this morning by the other Scott Tange. If your listeners haven't checked out his channel, you definitely have to check it out. It's brilliant. And he made a video today, or it was released today, saying that something about the outrage machine is in full swing, but patriarchs don't care. This is the point. I could be one of those guys that says, "Oh, well, the ANC guys, I'm not gonna have family because the ANC is gonna ruin my plans." Or oh man, Julius Malema is gonna come and they're gonna burn my house down. I could be like one of those.
They hate me because I'm white.
Yeah, I'm a white victim. Like I could be one of those oaks, and there's lots of them out there. Lots of oaks that are just like, I'm not going to have kids because how am I going to bring children into this world? You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of them, and I'm fed up with those oaks. I'm done with them. Like that's just insanity. I mean, imagine you were a pregnant woman or imagine you were a father or a husband with a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old child during the Blitz. Okay, imagine you were a father with a pregnant wife during the Great Depression. Imagine you were a father with a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old child during the
1820 settlers.
The 1820 settlers that rocked up here, had nothing. They thought they were coming. They thought they were coming here for something. They were going to like waltz in, and there was going to be something amazing. And they came here. They could have sat down on the beach in Port Elizabeth and been like, "There's nothing here." No, they got on with it. They carried on because they understood. Hey, guess what, guys? You know what? Tomorrow the sun is going to rise. Yeah, sorry.
I was just saying what they did. They got their guns, they got the wagons, they cleared trees, and they had babies.
Exactly. The utter stupidity of people thinking that, okay, well, it's today, nowadays, is not a good time to have children. And I say utter stupidity with great love in my heart, because I was one of those utterly stupid people. And
Scott was not
I
always the based gentleman you see before you now.
no,
None of us were.
I am a based a progression of basedness. So I wasn't, although I was mildly based, but I was never as based as I am now. But I had weird ideas in my 20s. But I don't understand the idea if someone says, what are the challenges of having children in a geographic location? What are the challenges of having children in I could ask you the same thing. I could say, what are the challenges of having children in the US? What are the challenges of having children in the UK or in Australia or New Zealand or wherever? Okay. Every place has its challenges. There's never going to be a time when you have children where there aren't going to be any challenges. And you can sit and cry about it. You can sit and complain about those challenges. You can sit and say, "Oh, it's never going to happen," or I'm never going to have children because of the government, and or you can just get on with it, and you can do it, make it a reality, and do it.
Life finds a way. Yes.
Yeah, but then the
That's what it
Constantia
is.
housewife, will say to you, "Well, don't you think that's a little bit what's the word? Don't you think that's a little bit irresponsible?" I'm like, no, it's not. It's literally creating a life. Do you think that life 20 years down the line, who's living there, living a good life, is going to turn around to me and say to me, I didn't have you because you were irresponsible? You understand?
Yeah.
You understand how
Yeah. No.
stupid that is? I mean, imagine
Yeah.
you say to that Constantia woman, imagine if your mother had have said to you now, "Oh, I didn't want to have you because you were irresponsible." I mean, just think about it. It's just the most retarded thing I've ever come across.
Yeah. I mean, was it responsible to have a kid in like the borderlands, of the Boer republics with like the Zulus or whatever? Was it responsible to, is it responsible to have a kid in Afghanistan today? No, but they're still doing it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so Firefox said a good thing over here. Said that's even good advice for men without children, because
Yeah.
yes, so many crying men out there, talkers that just want to cry the whole time. Oh, this problem, that problem, blah 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 blah. Yes, talk about it. There's a thing like Dylan, like we love this. Okay, so me and Dylan, we love talking to each other because it's a fellow. Nothing. Okay, let me start over. I, Scott McLaren, am nothing special. I'm nothing amazing. I'm not this brilliant specimen of patriarchal beauty or whatever it is. I'm not that. Okay. And when I talk on these shows and talk on these topics and stuff, it's not because I'm trying to say, look at me, I'm amazing, I have a daughter. Big wank. I mean, I have a daughter. So what? Billions of people around the world have daughters, and billions of people have done it before me. Okay. But what this does do, what talking between each other and fellowshipping to the other men that are listening, what it does do is it encourages other men to do these things. And I think that is how men fellowship and build each other up. Because
Yeah.
everything was built on the backs of groups of men that built things. And that's why it is good advice to men who don't even have children. Get on with it. Build things. Move forward. Every day you need to be moving forward, winning, and as Scott Tungay says, crushing and being a king. Right.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done
No, that's
waffling.
exact. No, that's exact. I mean, what the heck more is there to say? That's exactly right. crush and be a king. That's exactly it. That should be the end goal there. All right, so I guess we'll wrap up there, man. That was excellent. I'm just gonna go back and check this super chat and go through some questions from Firefox's Red. Thanks again for the donation, man. That was very kind of you. Never had a father, but I've learned some interesting things this stream. The macro micro division and spiritual leadership. God bless all fathers. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad you enjoyed
Can I
it.
just,
And
Dylan, do you mind if I just say something to that quickly? Firefox, is someone that's, you said that you never had a father and stuff. You know, another good thing that, or another important thing that a father should always try to do, a father should always try to make sure that what comes after him is better than what he had. That's so vitally important as a father. So, I mean, I know for a fact my dad made many, many mistakes. I respect him, you know, in spite of those mistakes. But he made loads and loads of mistakes. I'm also going to make loads of mistakes. But my job as a father and a man is to make sure that whatever mistakes my dad made, I learn from them and don't repeat them. But I'm going to make my own mistakes. I'm going to have my own mistakes. But my goal is to make sure that whatever environment or whatever I had as a child growing up is going to be better for my next generation. And it's the same as what my dad said. My grandfather, who I never met, he died when my dad was probably about, I don't know, 18 or 19 or something, was a real son of a bitch, like outright son of a bitch, you know, proper, really rough guy. My dad made it his goal to raise a good family, and he did that. My goal is to take whatever my dad created and work on that. It's a craft as a father to work on fathership, and every time it needs to get better. So Firefox, I challenge you as someone who's never had a father to never make that mistake again. I don't know if your father passed away. I don't know if he abandoned you or whatever it is, but try your best to always be a father. And nice thing about it is that you now get to start the chain and grow from there. And that's a blessing, brother.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm just going back here through other questions or whatever. Mr. Patriarch, are you still a monarchist? I'm a bassist. There we go. I'm a bassist. Hey, there you go.
Was he asking you that silly question of, are you still a monarchist? Of course he's a monarchist, man. He's based.
Yeah. I guess that's why I'm so based. I like to play the bass. Literally I do. But I guess my answer to that would be, I guess it depends. So I'm not going to try and force it on something where it's not, I guess, natural. So I guess an example would be, I couldn't imagine really like the Boer, like if there was ever a Boer republic again, like them having a king, just because republicanism is so like hard grained in them, but popular democracy isn't. So I'm cool with sort of cultures having a way of governing which is appropriate to them, I guess, if that makes any sense. So monarchy, I guess overall, if I'm comparing like 1-to-1, yeah, I am a pro monarchist. And that form, that can take a variety of forms. But yeah, I guess the one thing I am against is, I guess, kind of the oligarchy we have, which is, democracy and, oligarchy.
I think that
popular democracy. Yeah.
I think that, and I was chatting to Russell about this the other day as well. I think that all leadership is good as long as it affirms the great chain of being. I do believe that if you can have a democratic system or you can have a monarchy, and both can be great as long as it affirms and understands that the ruler of that country is under God. take that away, and it all goes to shit, like what we see with modern day democracies. So
Yeah, and there's places which are democratic, at least on paper, like Hungary, which is a democracy. And then there's also the UK, which is also a democracy. But if you compare those two countries and the sort of leaders that they have and the sort of people that live there, they're two very different places. Obviously, the latter, I mean, the former being more preferable to me personally. But, people have their own particular institutions and particular way of doing things. But I guess I would just try to encourage them to be the most based versions of themselves.
Definitely.
That's my response. So I guess that'll be it, guys. I'm looking here, seeing if I don't see just any other questions, or I don't think I missed any super chats. Thankfully, I did that once and I felt kind of bad afterwards.
No.
Yeah, I made up for it the next show, but there was like a 2-week delay in answering those super chats.
Oh wait, I think wasn't that on where you mentioned it? Wasn't it on that Scott Tungay's episode where you mentioned someone gave you a super chat and where you interviewed Scott Tungay? Never mind, doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, yeah, it might have been that one. It was either that one or it might have been the one I did with freaking Mahobane on the
Paradox. Yes. Oh yes, I think it might have been that one. I think so. Yeah. But Dylan, can I just before you close off, do you mind if I plug?
No, that's exactly what I was going to do. So I'll plug first, then I was going to pivot. You plug. All right. So
go ahead. You plug.
Thanks all. Thanks for everyone coming in. If you like the channel, you want to support, there's links to Subscribe Star in below. So if you help me we just reached goal 2, so that's great. I'll be releasing 2 videos for all backers, regardless of level. And then once we hit goal 3, then I'm going to be trying to make one piece of exclusive content for backers only per month. So I'll still keep all my regular stuff. I'm not going to keep everything behind a paywall, so don't worry about that. But I just want to reward my backers who are supporting me, because I really do appreciate it, guys, and it is a big help to me, particularly in this time. So yeah, and as far as new videos I got coming down the pike, I'm going to try and have another stream for you guys next week. I also have released another episode of Conserving Nothing with I released another episode of Conserving Nothing for the backers. So there you go, guys. Thanks for helping me reach the goal. As far as anything else goes, I think I have another. I'm thinking about maybe releasing another one on Conserving Nothing, just because there's been some crazy stuff. I know I've released a lot of Conserving Nothing videos, but there's just been some crazy stuff in Con Inc. lately.
So here's the thing. A little bit of insight to your listeners over here from the old days. Dylan's been a very outspoken anti-neocon for forever, as long as I can remember. Even when we wrote the on our YouTube channel what it's about and stuff, it's conservatism has conserved nothing, and that was 2018, I think.
yeah, it was a while ago, but yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I have some more videos in store for you guys. So, anyways, and if you're new here, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it, and please consider giving us a subscribe. We'd like to have you around. So, Scott, anything you'd like to plug, sir?
Yes, I'm actually okay. So go and check out my channel. I'm not really a YouTuber. Yeah, it's in the link below and stuff. Yeah, I'm not really.
Let's get him over 500 subs. Let's get him.
Yeah. I'm struggling. Yeah, but I'm not really a YouTuber or an aspiring YouTuber. I just like to chat with other guys, and my goal is just to network with other men and get them inspired. And I guess the same as Scott Tungay, my goal is very much to just push men to be better men, and myself as well while I'm doing that. But my channel is moving away from politics and stuff. I used to talk about politics and philosophy a little bit and that sort of thing, but it's moving away from that into thanks, Ghost DQO. Thanks, bud.
Probably
Appreciate
Romanian. I don't know.
it. I'm moving away from that and moving into sort of Christian family dynamics, and that's my goal, is to talk about raising a good Christian family. Basically, what myself and Dylan have been talking about now. And yeah, go ahead and hit the like button. But I'm also going to be interviewing someone who is pretty well known. Probably next week. He's a busy man, trying to get down a date, but I am going to be interviewing my good friend Ernst Roots on my show. And
Nice.
Interestingly enough, we're not going to be talking about politics or his trip to the US or the EFF or AfriForum. We are going to be talking about big family dynamics. So Ernst Roots is a based Afrikaans Boerseun who has 4 boys. Bless him. God looked on him kindly. And he's got 4 boys, and we're going to be talking about raising a big family. And it's something that he's very, very passionate about. And I think it's going to be very interesting. So I'll put that up on my Twitter as well. Go and check out my Twitter as well. Cool.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll call it there. I'll talk to you guys again soon. And peace out. Patriarch out. Good night.